is the third part of this reading. Um, well, I will be reading since from the part when I uh, um, stopped on the last record. Okay. Well, how I consider this is the first American version. So next explanation: Civil War. The Martian turnover that was expected to occur in two ways, either thought long-term economical gains or by the much shorter but painful armed conflict. For almost 200 years the former method seems to take effect, but the gradual sketch eventually did break in a most destructive way. Almost since its establishment, Martian culture was a suffused with, a, with an explicit theme of rebellion against Earth. Songs, motion pictures, and daily publications rep- repeated this notion again and again until they became internalized. Earth were the old ossified home that held humanity back, while Mars was new, dynamic, active, and inventive. Mars was the future. This ideology eventually reached its semi-paranoid revolutionary apex. Roughly 1,000 years from now, the nations of Mars banned all non-essential trade and travel with Earth. For Earth, it was a death sentence. Without the resources and industries for maps of Mars. The terrestrial Haiti will quickly develop into a pale shadow of its former glory. Since a trade of essential goods continued, nobody would starve. Nobody will, nobody will starve. But for every citizen of Earth, the Martian boycott meant the loss of up to three-fourths of the yearly income. Earth had no choice but to reclaim its former privilege by force of necessary centuries after the political unification. Terra grinded out for war. Most thinkers and fantasists sorry, of previous times had imagined the planetary war as a glorious, fast-paced spectacle of massive starships, one-man fighters, and last-minute heroics. No fantasies could have been further from the truth. War between planets was a slow, nerve-wracking series of precisely timed decisions that spelled destruction on biblical scales. Most of the time, the combatants never saw each other. Most of the time, the combatants were not there at all. War became a duel between complicated autonomous machines programmed to maximize damage to the other side while trying to last a little longer, which a conflict caused horrendous destruction on both sides. Phobos, one of Mars' moons, was shattered and rained down as meteorites hail. Earth is safe upon an impact that killed of one-third of the population. Barely escaping extinction, the peoples of Earth and Mars made peace and reforged a united solar system. Reforged united solar system. It was cost them more than 8 billion souls. Starved people The survivors agreed that massive changes were necessary for ensure that such error never occurred again. These reforms were so comprehensive that they entailed not political, economic, but biological changes as well. One of the greatest differences between the people of the two planets was that over time they had almost become different species. It was believed that the solar system would never completely unify until the discrepancy was overcome. The answer was a new human subspecies, equally and better adapted not only to Earth and Mars but the condition of the most newly transformed environment as well. Furthermore, there's beings, these beings were envisioned with a larger brains and higher talents, making them greater than some of their predecessors. Normally, it would be hard to convince any population to make a choice between mandatory sterilization and parenting a new fledgling race of superior beings. However, memories of the war were still painful fresh, and it was easy to implement these radical procedures in the wake of such slaughter. Any resistance to the birth of the new species did not extend beyond major complaints and trivial strikes. In only few generations, the new race began to prove its worth, organized as in a single state and aided by the technological development of the world. They rapidly terraformed and colonized Venus, the asteroids, and the moon, and Jupiter and Saturn. Soon, however, even the domain of the sun were small. The new people who inherited it wanted to go further to new worlds under the distant stars. They were to become star people. It's a photograph of the sign of the new people, star people. Colonization and mechanical OEDP. I don't know what's OEDP. I don't know how to pronounce it either. Even for the star people, interplanetary travel was momentous loss. Early minds had blogged about the problem and such a faster time light travel and hyperspace emerged as the only solution. Simply put, impossible to take a large number of people with enough supplies to be the closest star to make colonization possible. The extinguished technologies could only slug along at mere percentage of light speed, making a journey an epoch-spanning affair. Enormous generationships were conceived and even built, but these combat to technical difficulties or onboard anarchy after a few cycles. The solution was to first go there, make the colonists later to descend fast that small automated ships were sent forth to the stars. On board were semi-sentient machines programmed to replicate and transform the destination and construct its inhabited forms the genetic materials stored on board. A bizarre problem plagued such attempts. The first generation of human to be manufactured sometimes developed a strange affection for the machines that made them. They rejected all kind of perishes after the massive identity crisis that followed. This technological Oedipus complex was not uncommon. Nearly half of the colony founding attempts were lost totally. Even then, however, the remaining half was enough to fill humanity's old spiral arm of the galaxy. The Summer of Men. Right after mankind colonization of galaxy came its first true golden age, bettered by machine prophets. The survivors of Oedia, I don't know how to pronounce Oedipa plagues built civilizations that equate and even surpass their solar forebears. This diffusion across the heavens don't not mean a loss of unity. Across the skies, steady flows of electromagnetic communication linked to Mayan worlds, which such eventually that there was no colony that did not know about the going of the distant evenings. The free flow of information meant, among other things, basically a celebrated pace of technological growth that could be figured out in one world was helped out by another, and many new developments were quickly made known to all in the realm of Spain's centuries of light. Not surprising, even standards rose to previously unimaginable levels, while did not exactly mean a galactic utopia. It was safe to say that people of the colonized galaxy lived lives in which labor, both menial and mental, was really compulsory. Thanks to the richness of the heavens and the toil of machines, each person had access to material and cultural wealth greater than that is of some nation today. During all the development and curious phenomenon was observed, while alien life was abundant in the stars, no one had encountered any sign of true intelligence. Some attributable this to an overall rarity, while others went as far as divine influence, resurrection religion, resurrecting religion, regardless of the theories, regardless of the theorizing. One question went truly and utterly unanswered. What would really happen if mankind ever ran into his equals or superiors in space? To start people watching an Holomer movie as they launch out of their minds of their colonized world, indigenous flora, for them, it's a life of continual bliss. Really amazing. And early warming. During those times, small discoveries of immense implication warned humanity that it might not be alone. On a newly colonized world, engineers had stumbled across the remains of a puzzling creature, considered so because it had very hallmark and terrestrial animals on an alien planet, justifiably named Pandora. The colossal fossil belonged to a bird-like creature and with enormous claws. Later research determined it to be a highly delivered Spinosaur, from a lineage of herbivorous dinosaurs that died out millions of years ago on Earth, while every other large land animal on the colony will have three limbs and a supervised skeleton system and hydrostatically operated muscle. Pandaveris was a typical terrestrial vertebrate with calcium-rich bones and four extremities. Finds it was an unlike as finding an alien creature in Earth's own strata. For some, it was irrefutable proof of divine creation. The religion research, fueled at first by mankind's appearance loneliness in the heavens, got even more intensified. Others saw it differently. Pandavaris had shown humans that entities powerful enough to visit Earth take animals from there and adapt them to an alien world or at large in the galaxy. Considering the time gulf in the fossil state itself, the mysterious beings were millennia older than humanity when they were capable of such things. The warning was clear. There was no telling that would happen if my kind should suddenly run into this civilization. A benevolent contact was obviously preferred and even expected, but it paid to be prepared. Silently, humanity once again began to build and stockpile weapons, this time of the interplanetary potency. There were terrible devices capable to novaying stars and reclaim the entire solar system. Sadly, even these preparations would prove the ineffectual in time. A reconstruction of Pandavaris showed the creatures ranked like claws with which it dug furrows in the soil to find its foods. Opportunistic local animals walk alongside Pandavaris, looking for morsels left over from its feastings. It seems like I don't know, like I don't know how to say it in English. A ornitorrinco, maybe. That will be the last page I will read for this time. Q. The first contact was bound to happen. The galaxy, let alone the universe, was simply too big for just a singular species to develop intelligence in. Any delay in contact only meant a heightening of eventual culture shock. In humanity's case, the culture shock meant the complete extinction of mankind, as it has come to be known. Almost a billion years old, the alien species known as Q were galactic nomads traveling from one spiral on to other in epoch. I don't know, is that the pronunciation? Sorry. Epoch spanning migration. During the travels they constantly improve and change themselves until they became masters of genetic and nanotechnological manipulation. With this ability to control the material world, they assumed a religious, self-imposed mission to remake the universe as they saw fit. Powerful as good, Q saw themselves as the divine ham, hambingers. I don't know what is hambingers. of the future. This dogma was rooted in what was being a benevolent attempt to protect the race from its own power. However, blind, unquestioning obedience had made most of the cure. To them, humanity, with all of its relative glories, was nothing more than transmutable subjects. With less than 1,000 years, every human world was destroyed, depopulated, or even worse, changed. Despite the fervent rearmament, the colonies could achieve nothing against its billion years of its billions years old foes, save for a few flashes of ephemeral resistance. Humanity, once the ruler of the stars, was not extinct. However, humans were not. And these are the cues triumphant in the fall of man. To this left floats a nanotechnological drone to the right, a genetically modified tracing creature. Pretty amazing. Well, this is the third part of the reading, I think. Thank you so much. We continue other moment. I hope you are enjoying this. I think this is easier to read than my other um, sci-fi books, but it's kind of amused. I think so. Thank you so much for watching and listening this. I will see you in another